You're listening to the Grit to Growth podcast. Real talk with real business owners and professionals who built their freedom the hard way and now want more time, money, and impact.
Hello and welcome back to the show, everyone. I'm your host, Levi Tesla, with Mailbox Money here in Sioux Falls. And today I'm joined by Brian Dempsey, a founder, builder, and problem solver behind multiple companies who's mainly dealing in the AI world nowadays. Brian, thanks for joining the show.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation.
Yes, we are very happy to. I believe you told me right before the show you like to dabble in the old person ways of thinking. And I said, no, it's the wise ways of thinking.
Well, you did indeed. And I'm very happy to be here and to share some experiences I've had and also tell you a little bit about my interest in being a writer, which I tried in my younger years, but with the new technology assisting you in writing articles, I'm getting great responses that I could not have without this kind of technology.
Amazing. Let's start with kind of some of your younger years, giving people a little bit of background and how you got to where you're at today.
Thank you for the questions. And again, thank you for allowing me to be part of your presentation today.
Absolutely.
So I'll just tell you that I'm 83 years old, so I guess that's a starting point. And when I went to college, I was interested in mathematics. And having been so, after graduation with a degree in math, I went off to pursue a career in actuarial science. And
Okay.
for more than 50 years, served as a consultant to a wide variety of businesses on the financing and math of their health and retirement systems. So I worked for larger companies to begin with, and then about 25 years ago formed my own company, and then sold that recently. Coincident with that was my move away from a larger population to the quiet life of South Dakota and spearfish. It was also prompted by my wife having been born in Orient, which is a very small town, West River.
I was gonna say I don't even think I am familiar with that one.
Yeah.
What's another town it's located by?
Well, Orient is located near Falcon, which most people are aware of.
Yep.
And her ancestors actually homesteaded the property, and her mother, interestingly enough, at 102, is still alive and on the farm. So,
Wow.
so that was another large reason, in addition to um, wanting to be in an area of the country where we could concentrate on family and also Sharon does a lot of writing and a lot of activities that are close to the earth, which is her heritage. So spearfish in South Dakota living for us is just the best way for our to pursue this particular age of our path of life.
Well, I'm glad we got you here as a South Dakotan. Then I believe you mentioned to me that you did flee. You did the right thing, in my opinion. You fled the winter that is hitting us now, but you were able to make it into November here, started December,
Yes.
which is
Yeah.
pretty impressive for this time of year.
Yeah. Well, actually, before coming to South Dakota, we lived in the forests of Colorado up at 10,000 feet. So we're no strangers to winter growth and getting through the winters and having a meaningful life. But as I mentioned to you, we're looking forward to our first grandchild. Uh, that child will be born in San Francisco, so we're back here to be here to celebrate that event, and then we'll be back in Spearfish again.
That's amazing. Well, congratulations to you and your family on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Of course. Brian, you mentioned in there that you spent a lot of years helping out other businesses and working for them, and then you went and started your own. Would you
Yes.
mind telling us a little bit about that journey, starting your own business and what you were doing then?
Yes. We moved to California in the 70s, where I began a practice of providing actuarial services to insurance companies from a startup firm of one in a bedroom in our home. And with a fair amount of hard work and an even greater amount of luck, I created a client base that allowed us then to move out of what we called the corporate headquarters into a real office. And as that company grew, we added to staff, and we actually added other city locations. And the others and myself all did basically the same work, and that was to consult with medium and large size businesses on how to design and how to fund retirement systems and health benefit systems. And in those days, 25 years ago, it was relatively simple, but it was also the midpoint of the path that we're all familiar with. And that path is the cost of these programs have become astronomical.
Absolutely.
And yeah, and they're not just problems for the businesses, but they're problems for society at large. And we're all aware that the healthcare budget for uh, all working people and non-working people in this country is a huge part of our GDP. And uh, when you're consulting and you're in an area where there's a lot of challenge, as there are in these two areas, you have an opportunity to prosper and provide good services. That company was sold about a year and a half ago, and that's allowed me to now go down a new path of interest.
Yeah. Before you go into your new path of interest, I think people would give value of kind of your exit of the old company, kind of the maybe 10,000 foot overview of how exiting a company actually works and operates.
Sure. Uh, Actuarial work is service work like any other profession, accounting or law or architecture or engineering. And basically, the revenue is for any of those organizations pretty simple. It's pairs of hands times hours equals revenue.
Hmm.
So it isn't a complicated business to sell because everybody who would be a potential buyer would probably be in a service business and understanding the budgets themselves. And in this particular instance, this is actually the third experience that I've had in selling companies. In this
Okay.
particular instance, I sought out a medium-sized national actuarial firm, and I pointed out um, what the characteristics of the firm were, what the possible combination would mean to them. And I could also demonstrate that how we had our company organized with staff and with technology actually produced more revenue per pair of hands than the company that was the potential acquirer. And once I was able to demonstrate uh, that they would get a quality organization, the next step was to determine price. And again, in service organizations, it's relatively straightforward. The price of a service company is generally determined by the annual revenue,
Okay.
and then some multiple of that revenue being paid over a period of time often as short as 2 or 3 years. So unlike many other businesses, this was a fairly simple transaction. The company that I chose was on the acquisition trail, and I was on the selling trail.
And it
And
just made sense to mold, right?
absolutely, it just was a very easy process. And I knew that the company doing the acquiring was well funded. I knew that they had an excellent reputation in the marketplace. And all the verbal agreements, of course, we had were reduced to writing. And each side of the transaction, just like in the purchase and sale of a home, each side of the transaction knew exactly what to expect. And they got their value, and I got my value for the years that it took for me to build that business.
So rough timetable from when you decide that you are ready to, you're thinking about selling to actually fully, what's that rough timetable?
From the first conversation to the delivery of the first check was about a 6 month period of time.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
very quick.
Yeah. Obviously, they had to do diligence.
Yep.
Obviously, they had to review our client list and talk to some of our clients. And then on my end, it was very important for me that every person in my organization be retained and have a position in their organization. And part of the requirements of the arrangement were that there be no reduction in force of any kind. And of course, we're a little more than a year, almost 2 years into it. Each of the people that worked for me at that point in time are still fully employed by the
Good.
acquirer. And actually, it's a better circumstance for them because there's a larger headcount. And in our little company, it was often where vacations had to be put aside. As
Yep.
it's, small businesses, you step up to the plate.
You do
And
what, even if it's not in your job title, you take care of what needs to be done for the company.
exactly. And with this larger company, my former staff could take a vacation and know that the clients would be served well. So that was not only, important for the client, but it was important for the staff as well.
Good. Well, that sounds like an extremely successful exit. So Brian, let's get into what you're kind of doing today. I'd like to start out with the name hallucinations.cloud. It definitely grabs people's attention. What's the story behind that name?
Yeah, well, you're a little bit too young to know about Timothy Leary, but
Yeah, I can't.
uh, Timothy Leary, back in the day, hallucinations were more related to LSD than the current context. And and in the current context is that all of us are using the internet in some fashion or another.
Hmm.
And over the last 2 years, particularly over the last year, artificial intelligence has permeated every aspect of the net. So, as we had this huge renaissance to technology with the introduction of the browser, this is kind of like, the huge sea change of how we use the internet, tenfold what the browser was able to do. So at the very bottom level, when we go on to any site and we search either for something we want to buy or we're searching for an answer to a question about where we can vacation or what medicine can do, whatever is the question, AI is now part of the response.
Absolutely, it is.
And the problem is that AI often is incorrect.
You know what? It was funny. I just was having this conversation with people, saying that a lot of times, and this is probably what you were going to get into. It seems like if it doesn't know, it will just give you something just to, make it seem like it needs to be the smartest person in the room, right?
You put your finger on it immediately, which is these companies, of course, make their money by people using their search engine and paying for it in some fashion or another. So every question you put forth is going to be, because the language models are trained, they're trained to give you a very positive, very knowledgeable sounding response.
Hmm.
And often the response that they're giving you is absolutely wrong.
Yes.
And this is actually this path was started by a friend of mine who's a pretty bright guy, and like most of us, we go on to see what information they have about us. And he went on, and the response he got was that, well, you're a winner of the Nobel Prize. Well, he knew he didn't win a Nobel Prize. But at some point in the past, he had written a paper with someone else who was a Nobel Prize winner.
So
So,
it's doing the connections there.
exactly. So the information got garbled and the response was entirely wrong. And when this happened a little more than a year ago, you had no opportunity to correct the errors of these large language models. They were trained, they went out and did your thing. And I wager that neither you nor I nor anyone else can make a phone call and talk to someone to get misinformation to be corrected.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think it's as easy as, yeah, just finding a 1-800 number to ring up. That's for sure.
Exactly. So that experience led me to think that the um, service that I could create would be to search the uh, uh, large body of information, not just from one language model, but from 8 different language models, each of which had their own personality, mash it all up together and tell the person doing the search what was the most creditable answer.
Okay.
So if one would tell my friend Alan that he was the Nobel Prize winner, 3 others would say, well, you've written this paper, but they never mention the Nobel Prize. Well, at that point, the application that I've written would give a score as to the credibility of the positive answer and the likelihood for the reason of the wrong answer, which would then be given to the person asking the question or making the query, credibility rating, allowing them to use the information and then submit their next question or go about their day knowing that they had a better answer.
That makes sense. So then, in practice, then, is this basically another AI that is or is it an add-on to these already existing languages that's giving put it in the basics, I guess, of how that actually ends up giving you that credibility score?
Yes, so the answer is everything's AI.
Yes.
However, uh, hallucinations.cloud has no axe to grind. It has no advertising, and its sole goal, as you would expect an older person, is to find the truth and to share the truth. And of course, this gets to be very important in a number of situations. Let's take the most obvious one, where in our news today, it isn't the news of 50 years ago where there were only 3 networks and there was Walter Cronkite and you know had that information that actually stewed about for a little bit and could be recorded and reflected more or less accurately.
Mm-hmm.
We have news coming from 100 different directions in microseconds.
Oh yeah, a lot of, all over the place, right at the
Exactly.
in the palm of your hand.
So hallucinations.cloud's objective is to take it from all different directions. We don't have any bias in the way that our code is written. It's strictly mathematical. It looks at everybody's answer. And there's a mathematical process called the wisdom of the crowd. So if you went out in the streets and you asked 50 different people a question, you
Hmm.
would get 50 responses, and then you would say, most of the people are telling me X. So that must be the right approach. And that's exactly what this model is. And it is to gather as much information and share the wisdom of the crowd. And then we don't tell people what to do or how to think. We just present information for them to judge and
Yeah.
then to move in whatever direction they wish.
That makes perfect sense. Well, what you were saying there, this is taking me back quite a few years now. I remember from a psychology class. You remember when they'd put big jars of candy and say, how many pieces, right? Well, our
Right.
psychology teacher, as you were alluding to, was like the best way to go about that is go ask everyone else what they put, find the average, and that's usually the closest to what's actually in there.
Exactly. That is called the wisdom of the crowd.
Okay.
Now, every once in a while, there's an outlier.
Well, yes, absolutely.
And the outlier is only one of the 50 people, and they're the only one with the right answer. So we have an algorithm that looks at the potential for the outlier being correct, and we point that out as well. So there's a lot going on. I actually wrote every line of code to create this program, and I've just had the best time doing it. And I guess if you were to ask me for a message to the people that are, supporters of your podcast, what would my message be? And it would be to just dive into this stuff because the AIs, even though they make mistakes, the AIs are programmed to help you solve complex problems, even without any mathematical training. And I have any number of friends, and now, of course, I have any number of clients where I'm quite excited because the feedback I get is, you know, I was always afraid of mathematics. Uh,
Mhm.
I couldn't translate a problem into the proper English. And now using this and being more patient than I might have been as a younger person, I'm getting results that are spectacular. So that if you were to ask me for a message, it would be just dive into this stuff. You'll be intrigued, and you have tools such as the one that I've created that will help you spend your time more wisely than even a year ago when the tools weren't
That's
quite
what
as
it's all
advanced as they are now.
that's what that's it's all about there. Brian, you did mention to me that you're doing some writings, and you're talking about people diving in. If they want to connect more with you, and learn more about what you're doing and what hallucinations.cloud's doing, where would you send them to?
Well, just go to hallucinations.cloud. And
It's easy.
my contact information is there. My phone number is there as well. Um, Unlike all of these LLMs and these huge companies where you can't get to a live person, you get to a knowledge base and you answer one question after another after another. My phone number is there, and I'd be happy to help any of your following and listenership and share the information that I've been able to gain. And it would be my great pleasure. The feedback that I'm getting from the articles I'm writing gives me great pleasure as well. I guess that's one of the virtues of being a guy in his eighth decade, to have somebody respect your opinion is what it's all about for me now.
Good. Well, Brian, we'll make sure to get those articles in there, and yeah, I'll encourage again any of our listeners to get in touch with you and really start learning how to implement this stuff to solve their greatest problems, because that's what it's all about there.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah,
I appreciate the contact, and maybe we'll bump into one another in the restaurants in Sioux Falls.
that sounds great. Well, thank you everyone for listening. I want to thank Brian one more time for being on the show, and you take care of that great grandchild that's on the way, sir.
I sure will. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you on the next one.
Know someone with serious grit and a great growth story? Send them our way at grittogrowthpodcast.com/guest.